We get started there. Welcome, brothers, to the Section Chief Training 101. My name is Bob Boothby. I'm the Chief of Section 4 North, talking to you from Toronto, Canada, and my counterpart is...
I'm Bob Scheik, Section Chief of 27, what used to be 27 West, in Central Illinois. I reside in Pekin, Illinois, and have our chapters at Knox College, Gamma Deuteron, Illinois State University, New Iota, and Bradley University, Beta Pi.
So just before we get going here, just wanted to review the purpose of why we are doing this. And one of the key elements was that up until last summer or fall, we didn't really have a common foundation or starting point for all our section chiefs. And we felt there was a need to establish that just to make sure that everybody knew what the minimum expectations were, what the responsibilities were, et cetera. And we didn't want to hear, somewhere down the road, oh, gee, I didn't know that. Nobody ever told me that, et cetera, et cetera. So this was a 1-hour session we put together last year. There have been a couple groups that have experienced it so far, and hopefully it provides a little foundation for new chiefs as well as young chiefs, I guess, with limited experience and what those expectations are, as well as establishing the resources that are available to you as a section chief. So just quickly to go over the agenda, we want to talk about the section chief position itself and how it fits into the overall organization of Phi Gamma Delta as a general officer, what some of those core responsibilities and expectations are, the communication protocol for incidents if they ever occur with one of your chapters, some of the do's and don'ts, the zone leaders and some of the communication there, as well as the resources that are available. And Bob and I are going to do a little bit of an interactive back and forth here. So at this point, I will turn it over to Bob.
For those of you that attended some of our section chief training over the last couple months, a lot of this stuff will be pretty similar. So bear with us as we go through some of the basics here. First off, organizational chart, just for you guys all aware. Section Chief purview is the candidate graduate volunteer roles under us, the Purple Legionnaire House Corporation, Board of Chapter Advisors. We're responsible for making sure those positions are adequately staffed and functional. Purple Legionnaires, we are a little bit of a hybrid, so we nominate them to the chapter confirms them, and once that vote at the chapter level takes place, there is a form on IHQ's website that Bob will be showing you a little bit later that needs to be filled out and submitted to IHQ. BCA members we can just appoint and then notify IHQ, and House Corporation members vary by chapter. It depends. Some chapters may have proper House Corporation with their own bylaws that govern how that works. So that kind of varies according to each of your chapters.
So to talk about some of the key or core responsibilities here, one of the top ones is acting as a source of recruitment for other key graduate volunteers. So for the chapters in your section regarding recruitment of Purple Legionnaires, BCA members, House Corporation members, and so on, we'd always like you to be on the lookout for good quality or graduate brothers that are willing to serve, and really looking at all sources of networking, maybe your own networks, and maybe sometimes graduates that frequent the undergraduate chapter and maybe less familiar to you, but the undergraduates may indeed be a source of possible recruitees as well. We want you as a section chief to be a source of support and guidance for these graduate volunteers and make sure that they are aware of what's expected of them. A couple of key ones are to attend the academies and ecclesiae, complete the annual report, the section chief report. Will reference the template a little later in the presentation, but there is a template there. If you want further information, you can check the previous ecclesia reports and see some sample section chief reports. Attend as many pig dinners as you can and make at least one visit to each of your chapters a year. And if possible, try and organize and help drive section or multi-section and state day conventions. Bob?
All right. So just going a little bit into more detail with kind of our responsibilities. We don't want to be kind of micromanaging chapters. So focus on chapter management at a high level, make sure that the BCAs, Purple Legionnaires, and house corps are effective, that they know what's going on. And by effective, you may have heard of IHQ's kind of baseline for BCAs and house corps of 551, 5 BCA, 5 house corps, and 1 Purple Legionnaire. That's kind of just a guide. Some chapters have BCAs with far more guys. It just depends on what makes sense for that chapter. So don't feel like you have to be beholden to that standard, as it were. The important thing is to keep an eye out for red flags. Are your volunteers responsive? Do they know the events that are going on with the chapter? Do they know when pig dinners are? Are they staying engaged with the chapter? And does the chapter also feel that that relationship is beneficial? And back to you, Bob.
So additional expectations are to try and check in on a regular basis with your Purple Legionnaires, BCA members, presidents, house corporation presidents, etc. One of the things that had never really been talked about, or at least kind of formalized, was what the expectation was as far as the term of office. We as section chiefs are appointed for a 2-year term by the Arcanet, and that's the official appointed term. Having said that, what we're trying to do in our graduate support of our undergraduate chapters is provide a bit of continuity. And it turns out that from some statistics, show that our average length of a Purple Legionnaire is actually less than the average length of an undergraduate stay at the chapter. And what we'd really like here, as far as a section chief term of office, is a commitment, from 2 to 6 years, not just for the 2 years. It is a 2-year appointment from the Archons officially, but we'd like a commitment in that, 2 to 6 year, 4 to 6 year kind of time frame. What we wanted to avoid was it being completely open-ended and never talking about it, to say, look, you're expected to serve for 2 years, that's great, and then 32 years later, you're still doing the same job, and nobody's ever talked about, bringing it to a close. So we're thinking of that 4 to 6 year kind of time frame. There are 6 zone leaders. If you were online earlier, Jason spoke about the different zone leaders, and we, 2 Bobs and the other 4 zone leaders, should be in touch with you, chiefs within our zones, relatively regularly. We talked about making a visit to each chapter at least once a year. There is a spreadsheet that is circulated to each chief to fill out for all the graduate volunteers from each of your chapters, including BCA members, House Corporation members, Purple Legionnaire, Recruitment Chair, undergraduate key positions, etc. We'd really like to keep that up to date, so your input on that would be helpful. Return it to headquarters. Some of that's to do with liability and insurance as well. And report vacancies to the headquarters as they crop up. It's tough right now during COVID, but hopefully as COVID comes to a conclusion, we can get back to focusing on expansion and looking for opportunities to grow the fraternity at new institutions. And again, we talk about the annual report. There is a template as a bare minimum. This is expected to be submitted annually in the spring. Bob?
This one is you as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is indeed. Thanks. Keep me on my toes.
No problem.
So this communication, I hesitate to call it a protocol. It was really just a list of key bullets, kind of some basic do's and don'ts here. From what do we do when and if an incident should occur, and how do we handle it? We put this together basically from personal experience. So it's not official yet, but maybe some pointers in here that you could take away and make use of. One of the things is to keep the headquarters staff informed of what has happened or what might happen, and request assistance. So both inform them, and if they're able, they will provide some good assistance. It's key to appoint a single point of contact, especially when speaking to the media. You don't want, 5 different people singing a different song, saying different things to the media. So it's really important to try and appoint, whether that be a graduate brother or an undergraduate brother, that you're going to have one key person who's going to speak on behalf of the chapter. And to that end, we want to prepare a well-framed formal statement, and that's one of the areas that the headquarters can assist with. Personally, they've helped me several times with just formulating, a well-phrased, polished communication, something to the effect that, what has been alleged to have happened is, not in keeping with our values, and so on. That Phi Gamma Delta does not stand or support this kind of behavior, et cetera, et cetera. So having a nice polished communication is really helpful. It's also important to communicate with graduates, just keeping them in the loop that what's gone on and who may be implicated or just needs to be aware. Not to say anything that's based on assumption. We really want things to be factual, and limit email correspondence. Try and use voice as much as possible. And let's keep off social media. Boy, stuff travels very, very quickly, and encourage the undergraduates to please, let's not post, things that travel so fast. And we want to make sure that this communication is focused and singularly on the same page. And then the other is just to schedule regular updates with your graduates and undergraduates of where things are, keeping them informed.
Right. Quick note, I am paying attention to the chat here. I noticed some of you have posted a couple questions. I'm recording those, and we'll be addressing those here shortly as they come up. So keep the questions coming. Oops, sorry, I accidentally skipped a slide. Just going into a little bit more detail on the zone leader or role on the SCEC. Each of us has been assigned 9-ish chapters, or 9-ish sections rather, to really give you guys a point of contact for if you have any questions, have any issues, need any additional assistance with anything. Each of us will be reaching out to you if we haven't already, as Bob and Jason mentioned earlier. But we also want to make sure that we aren't, adding one more kind of reporting requirement to you guys. We know there's a lot of other reports and kind of paperwork we have to keep track of. So those calls may be monthly, if you have some chapters that have some additional concerns, or they might be, something more like semesterly or biannually, if everything's relatively smooth sailing. But the important part is, if you guys have any concerns or need any help, feel free to reach out to your zone chiefs at any time to talk to them and get their input and any help that you guys need. And we'll also be, just trying to, keep track of what's going on in each section, where your chapters are at, and try to help identify issues early and well ahead of time.
So we do have plenty of resources available to our chiefs. Some of these are available at figam.org, and others are separate and distinct from that. But I did want to actually go online, and for those who have not been on our website, there may be some. We tend to gloss over the stuff and just say, yeah, it's online, go have a look, make sure you check this link, check that link, et cetera, et cetera. And I actually wanted to go online here, share my screen for those that have not been online yet, and show you where this stuff is located on our website. So hopefully you can all see my screen. This is the figam.org website, and here we're on the graduates tab. This is what it looks like when you come into it. Okay. So undergraduate volunteers, if you scroll down, there's a lot of information here, but under section chiefs, we have all the reporting obligation, all the forms, all the manuals, etc. Here's our section chief annual report template. So that's where all our manuals and forms are. If we continue to scroll down, you'll see that this is the access port to our learning management system, the LMS. And if we click that, you're going to come to this screen here. And I think because I'm already logged in, I may have bypassed the login. I'm just going to sign off here and come back in again. Like it kept me out. So you will be prompted for a user ID and password, which you can set up. If you have any issues, you can contact Dio. On the main tab here, the dashboard tab, you'll have a quick video on how to navigate the LMS. And here's the key one here is the course catalog. So there are some really nice videos. We've highlighted a few of them here in Building Courageous Leaders, defining and identifying hazing for graduates, and hazing prevention for graduate advisors. So this is the way we get into our training material. So Bob, do you want to take that back now? Just wanted to show basically the navigation on the website if you haven't been there already. And I'll stop sharing. So as mentioned before, we've got that contact list with the various graduate brothers from your section, from the different chapters. I did see some chat messages regarding that, so we'll follow up with those in a few minutes. Communications from the fraternity, of course, and the correspondence with the zone leaders as well. So, Bob, I think you're on mute there.
My apologies, I did have myself on mute. Yeah, so over the next coming months, we're kind of waiting for this weekend to occur for Academy to happen. But over the next few weeks and months, we'll be setting up additional kind of 102 type training sessions similar to what the other group's going through. Going through more detailed discussions about graduate trusteeships and colonies. We know that that's kind of a hot topic for those of you that have those chapters. How to identify red flags and some specific case studies and discussion around real events that have happened and what went well, what could have gone better, and that kind of thing. So we'll be planning and scheduling those over the next coming weeks. Certainly by February, mid to late February, we should have something starting to come out about those. And
I think maybe just before we go on to that open discussion, Bob, do you want to go down to the next slide
yeah.
with the contact information?
Yep. Yeah, we can certainly
So
hit that up.
we included in this deck some of the key contacts from the headquarters staff, like Rob Cadill and Todd Rogers, with their cell phone numbers. We trust that you'll use those for emergencies only, or things that are extremely urgent, not for general communication. But we do think it's important that, should something occur, we get ahead of the ball and, inform Rod and Todd appropriately. And Dio's name is there as well for the Director of Graduate Engagement. If we need anything as far as resources or have any input on how to improve things, please contact Dio as well. Now, do you want to go back to the open discussion? Yep.
Open discussion. The two questions, just so far that we got, we'll just cover them real quick. Is can we move the rosters to Google Docs for editing and get these presentations and other SU relevant information also in a Google OneDrive location? For that one, we will talk. We can probably get this stuff onto figam.org. We'll talk to Todd Rogers about that. And for the rosters, we'll pass that on to IHQ. That stuff's really maintained by IHQ, so we will pass that request on to Todd Rogers as well.
Yeah, it's a good comment. I mean, the whole issue of communication is getting more and more complex, especially for old guys like me. But just there's so many different forums and ways to communicate. Quickly feel like a dinosaur with regard to communicating with the undergraduate chapter, because there's so many different ways. There's different ways to communicate. There's different ways to meet. Different ways to share documents. And I think we want to kind of optimize that to the best of our ability to provide as easy a route as possible to access what people need. So thanks for the suggestion, and appreciate that. We'll see what we can do to get it in order.
Hi. Dana just put in the chat, I would add a recommendation. New SCs plan on making a post-COVID visit to IHQ in Lexington with other graduate volunteers and or undergrads. Cost and distance limitations being understood. The tour of the building and of the CR purple memories that won't dissipate for decades. I totally agree. I finally was able to get there during Bill Martin's retirement, and even my fiance really loved the tour, going through the museum that IHQ maintains, and I totally agree. It's a great place to visit.
I agree wholeheartedly. Great suggestion. Thanks, Dana. I have to tell a little story about driving down from Toronto to New Orleans for the 2012 Ecclesia, and took my wife and my two girls, who were, I think, about 9 and 11 at the time, kicking and screaming, why on earth do we have to be dragged to Dad's convention? And, Lexington is about the halfway point. So we stopped in, got the tour of the headquarters, and the girls came out thinking, not too shabby, Dad. This is pretty interesting. And the whole thing kind of started to make sense. And they had that was the first step in a fantastic trip. They had a terrific ecclesia, and said, when's the next one? So we went from kicking and screaming, why do we have to go, to when's the next one, and we really want to go. And that's been the case every time since. So they're looking at the 5 Ecclesia Club between my two girls. My wife is already there, I think. So the headquarters is definitely a highlight. Great suggestion. Thanks, Dana. And it looks like Dan has added get some ritual refreshers there as well. Definitely. Yeah, that's another good one for sure. They may have to pre-book an appointment to get the appropriate treatment there.
When I was undergraduate, the HQ building was new, unforgettable. Bill Zimmerman gave the tour. Yeah, no, just to pile on to what Bob said, like I said, my fiance went with me, and we went through the museum, and she didn't understand kind of the breadth of history we have. She wasn't in a college sorority, so it was a very, very interesting experience, and there's a lot there that everyone can get something out of.
So just a comment on the training itself. This is still in its infancy. We're still in our first year here of trying to get something out. So we're really looking for suggestions for improvement. We've had a few. We've tried to incorporate those the best that we can. But please offer up. We're not that sensitive. If you'd like to see things taken out or don't think they're appropriate, or you'd like to see things added that are not there yet, please share. Fire us an email, and we'll hopefully improve this as we go forward over the next few years.
I did see a comment by Dan Mossop about have a trusteeship and a colony in his section. So he's really looking forward to his sections. Yes, no, I agree. When I first came on as section chief, one of my chapters was a colony. They've since chartered, and I'm heading into my second trusteeship now. And definitely understand going through as a newer section chief, understanding what that process is. I definitely had some lessons learned, difficult lessons learned from my first one. And it's a unique experience, and until you go through one, it's, hopefully you don't have to, but if you do, those knowing kind of what those look like is invaluable. So like I said, Bob and I will be assembling some pointed sessions. One of our SCEC members has a significant trusteeship experience, so we'll be bringing him in as well, I'm sure, to get you guys the training on those unique situations.
So Dan has also asked, what are the primary issues that section chiefs are facing around Fiji land right now? And let me take that one to start with, and Bob, feel free to jump in as you see fit. My personal thought is that it depends on where you are as to what the highest priority issues are. It can range anywhere from hazing and risk management violations that are a threat to the fraternity overall. We've seen the number of chapter closures, unfortunately, continue over the last 2 to 4 years. So that's certainly an issue that the section chiefs need to be aware of, manage. It's also on the shift, I think, to that end. It's also on the shift of thinking of what is the fraternity all about? Why am I here as an undergraduate and as a young graduate? What do I want to get out of this? And there is a program that we've kind of floated so far. It hasn't got great traction yet, but I expect it will. And that's in setting the expectations for being a graduate brother. So when we get a pledge, a young brother coming in, he's going to be an undergraduate for a lot less time than he's going to be a graduate brother. And starting to set the expectation that, yes, once you graduate, you are expected to, contribute your time, your resources, your energy, perhaps your money to the fraternity as a whole. And to that end, one of the biggest challenges that the section chiefs face is the recruitment of graduate volunteers. The funnel does not seem to be full. So we have an effort in place right now to try and keep that funnel full as best we can, to be aware of various graduates in various areas that may be able to help out or willing to support our local chapters. So those are just a couple between the hazing and changing the behavior culture and recruiting new graduates and setting the expectations for graduate brotherhood. Those are a few that are on our plate. Bob, did you want to?
I just want to kind of expand on the funnel, as you call it. I think that's certainly a problem today, and unfortunately, mostly due to COVID, I don't see that really improving much. We're going to, in the next 3 to 4 years, probably see a little bit of a dip of younger guys graduating out. As Rob said, recruitment is taking a small hit. Maybe it's not as much as we expected, but it is taking a hit. So I don't think we've fully seen the fallout of that yet. So that's going to be not just a concern today, but also a concern moving forward for probably the next several years. And then let's see here. James asked, what is the best practice for number of meetings per year with our PLs? I'd say, especially with the ongoing pandemic and all the issues around that, probably fairly frequent touch bases just to make sure everything's going smoothly. But certainly, probably once to twice per semester at an absolute bare minimum. But again, going back to same kind of deal with our communications with you. It kind of depends what you got going on in your sections. What chapters have going on the plates.
Yeah, personally, I don't think you can over communicate with your PL. They're your feet up, should be your feet on the ground. Basically, have their finger on the pulse of what's going on at each of your chapters. So, I don't have 4 or 5 PLs that I need to keep in contact with. I've only got a couple, but I try and keep in contact with them every couple weeks to every month via emails, texts, etc., and just to ensure that they are aware that they've received the various communications from headquarters, that they're aware of some of the deadlines, get an update on what's going on at the chapter, both good and bad. If the chapters have key accomplishments, I want to hear about them, and the PL should be aware of them. If you get a sense that you're trying to correspond with your PL and they're just not responding, then you may have a problem. It gets back to those red flags that Bob talked about earlier. So I don't think you can communicate too much with them, whether it's a formal meeting or just an email. Try and touch base with them, at least once a month, I'd say, and make sure that they've got their finger on the pulse of what's going on and what kind of shape the chapter's in.
Dan asks, how frequent is section chief contact with the undergraduate chapter versus PLBC House Corps? Bob, you want to take that one since you kind of talked about
this was part. Great question. It really has to do with the kind of redefinition of the section chief role a few years ago, where we wanted to, I think, move the section chief responsibilities out of the day-to-day minutia of the chapter. So it's really more of a management structure right now. And as far as contact with the undergraduate chapter, I would say, maybe once a quarter. We want you to attend a meeting. We want you to attend the pig dinner and so on. And if you feel inclined, yes, you can, go by the chapter house and so on. But really the bulk of communication should be with your PL and your key BCA and House Corps members. And again, when the contact is with the undergraduate chapter, we want to keep that at a relatively high level. Let's not get into the, micromanagement of the chapter operations. That's really the responsibility of the others.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm the same way. Just personally, I try and visit my chapter, at least pre-pandemic, of course. Try and visit my chapters about once a semester. I really, like Bob said, don't want to get into the minutia of the chapter, but just touch base, make sure everything's smooth sailing. And that kind of thing. So about once a semester is what I strive for, but of course, we don't expect much more than once a year.
Yeah. So Dan, to your point there, on the BCA for 15 years and lots of chapter contact, you're into the operations and programming and so on. Now as a section chief, that operational contact is reduced significantly. That's as expected. Terrific. The job should be somewhat easier in that respect. And again, focus primarily on, the PL, BCA, and House Corps members. That's exactly as expected. So yeah, sounds like everything is shaping up nicely. I'm sure. Yeah, agreed. Difficult to let go. Certainly acknowledge that. It is different and can be, rewarding in a different way. But certainly the role has changed from day-to-day activity to taking a step back. Agreed wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I was a PL before being as Matt Hazelton would put it, I was voluntold to be section chief. And he kind of really impressed on me not to be a super PL, as he called it, and not to get into minutia. And I find it difficult. Once in a while I still find myself kind of sliding back into that and have to tap myself on the shoulder and be like, no, that's not that's not what you're doing anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it is difficult.
And Dana said, he was a chief for 11 years and then got back into the BCA again. And yeah, very, rewarding, missed the engagement. Nice to be back at the, the real goings on of the undergraduates and in regular contact. So different roles, different rewards, different challenges, but all of them needed for sure. And by the way, I don't think we mentioned a big thank you. Others have thanked our graduate volunteers. Rob did, and I think Nick did as well. Ben Robinson did, but we'll echo those thanks to you very much for taking on the role of section chief and all its challenges and so on as a general officer of the fraternity. And just want to say thank you for your help in making our organization better, stronger, etc. So round of snaps to all you section chiefs out there. Thank you very much. Anybody else have anything to offer? Comments, questions, suggestions?
Dan just asked, any tips and topics for running a virtual section convention? Yep. That's a good question. I don't know, Bob, do you have anything? I haven't had the chance to get a section day up in my section yet. So unfortunately, I don't have the experience of running one.
No, have not done one yet, but my in preparing our virtual pig dinner, I think the biggest thing I would say is preparation. Assume the worst technically, that preparation and planning is absolutely critical. It doesn't just happen. It takes a tremendous amount of work. I think Dana will attest to that with his preparation and the fine job he did. He set the bar very, very high for the Virginia Tech pig dinner back in March or April of last year, and tremendous amount of preparation went into it. So planning the a virtual section convention would be similar to a mini academy, I think. And again, preparation, platform, planning, get the dates out early, and try and get the key contacts and so on as early as you can.
Yeah, and I think it's also important. I did see that with one of my chapters, virtual pig dinners, that I think it's really important also to have a space where brothers can get together and talk and not just, discuss best practices or whatnot, but just, get reacquainted and that kind of thing. And the virtual pig dinner I attended earlier this year, brothers just stayed on for, I think it was like an hour afterwards, just talking, getting reacquainted. So I think it's important to make sure that you have a space for that as well, because that kind of thing is important and will occur probably more than you expect.
Dennis has a great question here. Is there any expectation that section chiefs could periodically deliver educational programming as a way to indirectly engage with the chapters? And as a brief answer, I'd say yes. Whether or not the section chiefs are going to be the ones who are delivering that programming is to be seen, I guess. But certainly the opportunity is there and is being thought about as far as how and what to deliver regarding our whether it's alcohol education, awareness, or substance abuse or hazing or so on, all done virtually these days. So definitely in the works. Again, whether the section chief is going to deliver that and or what the section chief might deliver is to be determined, but definitely something that's in the works. So thank you for asking that. There was a question there for Dana. How can I contact you to discuss virtual pig dinner? We're starting to plan for one at Akron. Thanks, Dan. Oh, Dana's already provided it. All right, there you go. Dana was kind enough to set up a Google Drive for us and share some of the key information, planning, content, etc. And we leveraged a bit of that for our local pig dinners here at Toronto and Western Ontario. So, Dana, you've set the bar very high there, and again, thank you for all your work up front. It served us all well. Thanks, brother.
Any
Perhaps,
additional?
I
Sorry.
was going to say, Dana, perhaps that's something you could chat with Dio about, and providing a centralized forum or drive there for sharing some of that information. If it's not there already, it may be for helping chapters with virtual pig dinners.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think we all kind of struggle with making the transition to virtual. We're very used to just going, to a chapter, talking to people, and it's been a struggle to get wrapped around to all virtual. So. Does anyone else have any additional questions or discussion?
If not, thank you, brothers, for attending. Please send us your comments, questions, etc., and we'll try and answer them to the best of our ability. And appreciate your input and your attendance very much. Have a very good rest of the academy.
Yep. I'll go ahead and leave this up for a few minutes in case someone didn't get a chance to jot down or take a screenshot of the information. Feel free to reach out to us, any time, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And thank you for everyone for attending.
So it looks like Tim is the only one left on. Tim, are you still with us? If so, looks like you're on mute there. Perhaps it's ready to wrap it up.
Yep, I think we're.
Should we close the session? Yep, looks like.
Think we're good.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Yep, thank you.